All right, everybody, welcome to our Tuesday evening Edgar Cayce On series here at Unity of Phoenix. And this session tonight is on Edgar Cayce on color. Color is a very vibrant part of our world. We do a lot of things with color in and of ourselves, around ourselves, on ourselves, in our surroundings. We look for different colored cars. We look for different colored dresses or pants or shirts or ties or whatever. We use color a lot in our own life. And Cayce was giving us some very, very important guidance on here regarding how we are going to use color and what it really means. This presentation was developed by my interpretation of going through the Edgar Cayce readings and discerning for myself that which I deem to be important and relevant about color. There are a multitude of readings for you, and if you're so inclined, I would certainly encourage you to get into the readings and go through and make your own assessments on what they say, because it is a wealth of readings. Color. Colors, these become as a means in which the entity may, for itself, determine much, but know as to what colors mean. Now, you'll see down here we have a number that says 1406-1. The coding system that was developed by Gladys Davis Turner to protect people's privacy was that she would give individuals a number. And this individual was assigned number 1406. The -1 indicates that this is the first reading that 1406 got from Cayce. Colors mean a lot of different things to us. But do we really know what colors mean on the spiritual level? Probably not. Probably not. We look at them in a material sense because we adorn ourselves a certain way. We paint our houses. We drive certain color cars. We tend to be creatures of habit when it comes, in fact, to colors. But it may say a lot about us and how we perceive our various status in life. But Cayce is also counseling us that there's also a deeper meaning to them. And if you need to be alert to them, because as you will soon see, they are all interconnected into ourselves, into our innate personalities, our individualities, our influences that we have, both past and present and future. Part of this first part of the presentation came out of Edgar Cayce's the ARE's circulating files on color, and this is part of it. And this was an extractment from the spiritual meaning of colors, auras, colors, healing colors, as well as the rest of the material from the circulating files. So this is not my work here. This was pursued by somebody who put forth the articles. Spiritually, color can impart both information, as in aura colors, and energy, as in healing. The aura is the spiritual energy field surrounding living beings, which is visible to the psychically sensitive. Edgar Cayce was one of the unique individuals who could look at a person in their physical and see the outline of their colored bodies. And one of the if you ever look at the Bible and you'll see the pictures, oftentimes people have halos around them. And I think this is the meaning is what they were trying to represent with the halo is telling them their spiritual auras, okay? And they certainly mean a lot of information, as we'll soon see, within the auras are themselves, but we also can use healing as a means to promote. You could use color as a means to promote healing, okay? The unique thing about Cayce, when his ability to see it, and this is one of the stories that goes way back, And it actually wasn't in a reading, but it was in one of the Cayce memoirs that he wrote, in that he and somebody, I want to say it was Hugh Lynn perhaps, was in a building. And they were up on one of the, I don't know, 10th, 5th floor, something up there. And they were going to get into the elevator to go back to the ground floor and go about their business. So they hit the button on the elevator. Elevator stops at their floor, doors open. In case he starts to go in, then he stops. And he looked around, and he did not see a single aura on any of those folks. And he politely said, "We'll catch the next one." And he took his son back. He went door, and the elevator crashed, killed those people. That's a true story. And it was the fact that the aura had done left the body, and when that happens, it was basically a material sign to him that something bad was about to happen. These people were about to basically meet physical death. It was pretty amazing that story, and it's something that Cayce did in fact say. Continuing, we are each unique individuals, and colors may hold different meanings for us than for others, just as a piece of music inspires different feelings in different people. Colors are vibrations, and when you think about music in the tone of vibration, we find certain music to be more appealing than we would other types of music. For example, if you were to crank up hard rock music, you would just feel it, and that may not be very, very appealing to you, but a soft melody or a song that you're familiar with may be a lot more appealing and may make you happy. So it's actually the influence of the vibrations of both music and color that in fact can set the tone for how we are feeling both physically and mentally. Many colors, what do they mean? Well, red. Red symbolizes energy, passion, strength, courage, physical activity, creativity, warmth, and security. It is also associated with aggression. In healing, use red to bring warmth and burn out disease. Red is a powerful color and should be used in moderation. In the aura, red signifies materialism, materialistic ambition, a focus on sensual pleasures, and a quick temper. Think about how we use the color red and how it's often associated in our lives here. Okay? Cool guys drive fast cars that are red, right? And red cars tend to attract attention of the police, says the old adage. But oftentimes I don't see a lot more red cars pulled over anymore. I think that may have been passé. But think about what we're seeing with it. And in red, it's a very vibrant symbol. Think about the bullfighters. They're they're adorned in red. It's, aggressive. It's showing energy and passion. With security, we may have a red security alert. Something could be going on with security that may, in fact, be using the color red to inform us of, there is something going on here that's very important. Now, red, with respect to healing, it oftentimes isn't often used that much, but when you start thinking about it, you could, in fact, use it to burn out disease. Think about what happens to our sun when we get sunburned. Doesn't our skin turn red oftentimes? And what's happening below? Is it just the surface, or is it actually penetrating a little bit more? Oftentimes it does tend to penetrate a little bit more. And red is associated with the material world that we're in and the attainment of sensual pleasures. Oftentimes, red is used as an antagonist. We may find it used for quick tempers. In the war games, it's oftentimes, how do we describe other countries? We use the term red to describe communism, right? Red China and things of that nature. Orange symbolizes the individual's relationship to the external world, the needs and wants of the physical body, and the ways in which these are satisfied, the world of work. In healing, orange may increase immunity and sexual energy. In the aura, orange signifies thoughtfulness and creativity. How do you get around in the world? Orange, what's your world of work look like? How does that come out? With respect to healing, what does the medical science field tell us about creating a better immune system? What do we need, right? And we need a lot of vitamin C. Vitamin C does this and that. Well, where do we get vitamin C from? Oranges. It's a citrus fruit. One of many, obviously, but still it's the same color that we can in fact use with healing if we're so inclined. Yellow symbolizes the intellect, creativity, happiness, and the power of persuasion. It is also associated with cowardice. In healing, use yellow to promote clarity of thought. In the aura, yellow signifies intellectual development for either material or spiritual ends. Interesting how we can use the colors and we're finding both ends of the spectrum. With it, we have positive attributes of each color, and we have negative attributes of each color. When you look at the emojis, and one of the things that's been around for a long, long time, we have the old smiley face, right? The big circle. What color is the circle? It's yellow, right? We have happy campers. Oftentimes, people may associate the color yellow with activities that are less than brave or perceived to be less than brave. Somebody's to say they have a yellow streak, which means they tend to be not as brave as others perceive they should be. Here comes green. Green symbolizes money, luck, prosperity, vitality, and fertility. It is also associated with envy. Green is the color of healing. It is beneficial in all healing situations. In the aura, green signifies balance, peace, and often indicates ability as a healer. Well, how do we use the color green? Well, what color is our money? Dead presidents are green. We have the luck of the Irish. What color is associated with Ireland? Green, right? Probably because of the lush landscape. Okay. Some people tend to be green with envy, being envious, desirous of others, other things. But with respect to green as healing, it is a key color for healing. Green is something that we need to look for with respect to signifying balance and healing, not only for ourselves, but as others as well. Blue is the color of spirituality, intuition, inspiration, and inner peace. It is also associated with sadness and depression, the blues. In healing, blue is used for cooling and calming both physically and mentally. In the aura, blue indicates serenity, contentment, and spiritual development. Blue is a color that I'm very fond of. I have found in my use of the color blue that it has in fact invoked tendencies for me to be more patient than I used to be. And whether or not it's development, I tend to believe, as you will see in the forthcoming readings, that it's in fact a reflection of what I believe and what needs to happen for me. Okay? Depression, the blues. People get sad sometimes. They call it the blues. And it's an entire genre of music. Okay? And what does it talk about? It talks about oftentimes the trials and tribulations of life and the things that we go on with it. But it also, for calming, it is very, very good. Blue does, in fact, help keep blood pressure down. It helps you to be very calm, serene at times. And it's a very good color to have about you. Indigo is associated with psychic ability. In healing, use indigo for relaxation, reassurance, and promoting psychism. In the aura, indigo signifies a seeker, often of spiritual truth. As you will soon see, this is a very powerful color in addition to with blue, okay? And a very relaxing color. I like to also, you'll find that indigos and the various shades of purple are very powerful in the healing mechanisms also. Purple is associated with power, both earthly and spiritual. In healing, purple is used for mental disorders and also for becoming one with spirit. In the aura, purple signifies higher spiritual development. When we think about historically royalty, what colors come to mind? A lot of times it's purple. They like to wear and adorn themselves with purple robes and things of that nature. And this is affiliated with the power, okay? Primarily earthly power. White is associated with truth, purity, cleansing, healing, and protection. It is a good general healing color for the removal of pain and suffering. In the aura, it signifies a high level of attainment, a higher level soul incarnate to help others. Tucked away inside of here, you're going to see how white does in fact come in. It's part of the Christ consciousness. And oftentimes, with respect to a good general healing color for the removal of pain and suffering, whenever I'm visiting my friendly dentist, that usually involves pain and suffering somehow, because, people with sharp objects inside your mouth is never a fun thing. But one of the things that I have done, and one of the practices that I do, whether I'm getting a massage, a chiropractic adjustment, dental work, or whatever, is to try to shroud the matter, the healer and the healee, in white. And I have found over the years by doing that it alleviates a lot of the apprehension that normally goes with whatever procedure is happening, and it is also makes it a lot more palatable on the receiving end. So I shroud both myself and my caregiver in a white light emanating down upon us. And it's just a technique that I've used, and I use frequently, and actually even used it today at the massage parlor, and it really works. It just helps keep things in the normal flow and doing things for the right reason. Because the other thing that I found that's important is with respect to healing, Cayce tells us that all healing does in fact come from the divine. So if whether you're doing a maintenance for a chiropractic adjustment, a massage, or having some other things, why not include God in the equation? And by doing that, it's a way to unite both the healer, the healee, and the source of all healing all into one neat little package. And it's just something that I've found to be very useful for myself. Gold represents understanding and luck. Remember, though that nothing comes from nothing, it is the most powerful healing color, but so powerful that many are not able to stand it initially and must be conditioned to it via other colors. In the aura, it represents service to others. what is at the end of the rainbow? A pot of gold, right? There's your luck. But this is one of the things, because quite honestly, I never thought of gold as being, a preeminent healing color. And it's, as it says, it's very, very powerful, but people tend to integrate it with the use of other colors, for example, green and white and, other colors that they have found to be useful over the years themselves and how they choose to apply it. But gold is here pretty much the dog daddy here when it comes to healing. That's what Cayce's telling. Very, very powerful. Very powerful. I have yet to experiment with gold with respect to healing, but it's on the short list. Pink represents unconditional love, love requiring nothing in return. It is also the color of friendship and conviviality. In the aura, it signifies balance between the spiritual and the material. In the fact that it says represents unconditional love, I find it not odd at all that a lot of women's causes are adorning with the color pink. Because I think in the true sense of motherhood, that is the closest thing that we may often find in our earthly minds as to unconditional love. I can certainly think back upon all the things that I did when I was a child and how my mother never really rebuked me, but she was always there for me, unconditionally, without, any conditions. But very, very powerful also because it gives us balance between the spiritual and the material, which is very key to us because, quite honestly, our earthly existence is pretty much a game of balance. Cayce tells us that we are in this world, but we need not be of this world. Well, think about all of the influences that we receive on a daily basis, whether it's from TV and radio and emails and surfing the internet and all kinds of things. We are constantly being bombarded with things of the material. And it's up to us to try to elevate ourselves above it and not get caught up in such earthly matters, but try to just find the balance. And for folks who are having trouble with balance, pink may be a good solution for her. Brown is the color of the earth and represents practicality, material success, concentration, and study. In the aura, it indicates down-to-earthness and common sense. This is a good color for farmers, I would think, because farmers are of the earth and they are very practical. And if they can grow a crop, then they in fact have material success because they were instrumental in bringing something from the ground up to the surface for the betterment of others. But brown is another color. But at the end of the Rhine is black. Black is the absence of color. It represents the unconscious and mystery. Its visualization can help promote deep meditation. Black also stands for evil. For example, black magic. In the aura, it signifies some kind of blockage or something being hidden. Quite a powerful color when you look at it from the aura perspective, because what are you hiding? Or is there a health condition that could in fact be, knocking on the door to happen that you're not aware of? But think about how we use black. Whenever you watch the old westerns, right? What color are the bad guys? They're always wearing black, right? Who we have? We got Black Bart, right? The good guys wear white, right? And oftentimes when you start to look at the goth scene that's in society, that often happens to do with devil worship and things of that nature. But how are they adorned? Everything is pretty much of the color black. And it's interesting how, we put all these things together and how we actually may not have any conscious meaning of what they truly mean, but yet we apply them to ourselves anyway. But this is the broad spectrum of colors in basic general meanings of what they signify, both for weal and for woe, and how we could in fact use them for healing and other things. There's other associations that go with this, and colors are just one tenet of the things that we deal with on a regular basis. Cayce actually associated our spiritual system, our chakras, with colors and put them into planets as well. And these are all in alignment, as you'll see here soon. Red equates to the root chakra and the Platter Saturn. The root chakra is our basic needs, the lowest of the low. Saturn is where things go that are not really needed anymore. Saturn is a very powerful planet, and it's a very important learning. Okay? Orange comes up, ties into the Leyden gland, which is our sexuality, and it's tied to the planet of Neptune. The solar plexus is very key. Cayce associates it with the planet Mars and the color yellow through our solar plexus. Now, our solar plexus is probably of the lower chakras, probably one of the most important ones, because it's kind of a thoroughfare from up to down and down to up. And if there's blockages or something going on here in our personal lives, either mentally or emotionally or whatnot, it tends to gravitate towards our gut. And whenever we're having problems and stuff, oftentimes we kind of feel it here, or we find tightness and things that area. Okay. Green has to do with heart and Venus. Okay. We equate heart with love. Blue, the thyroid and Uranus. Indigo, the pineal and Mercury. And finally, purple with the pituitary and Jupiter. In Cayce's understanding, the lower three, blue, indigo, and purple, primarily the thyroid, the pineal gland, and pituitary gland, are all up in here. This represents higher levels of consciousness within our human selves, whereas the root chakra, Leyden gland, solar plexus, and heart are of the earth. These are things here that oftentimes must be accomplished and overcome. But this is how Cayce has it broken down. And what's really more interesting about this is all of this comes straight out of the book of Revelation when you talk about the symbolism of it. And for each of the 7 churches, we have 7 glands. Spirit's image, the virtue, the fault, instruction, reward, seal, trumpet, the color, the element, the figure, the musical note, the Lord's Prayer. It's all of this is tied together. All tied right back into the book of Revelation and can be expressed in a variety of different ways. And this is where often colors also start to come in, okay? Because right down in here, you can see that what chakra they are and what the churches are. When you get over here, the pituitary, that's the end of the road, that's God the Father. But I found this to be quite interesting. Now, somebody not drinking moonshine here, I don't suppose, but what is the meaning of the white lightning I have seen? And this is where it starts to get into a little bit more of an in-depth understanding. The answer Cayce gave to 987 was, that awakening that is coming. More and more as the white light comes to thee, more and more will there be the awakening. For as the lights are in the colors, in the green, healing, in the blue, trust, in the purple, strength, in the white, the light of the throne of mercy itself. Ye may never see these, save ye have withheld judgment or shown mercy. Very important, because what this is, Cayce's telling this person that you would not have seen these if you had not been non-judgmental and if you had not shown mercy to others. Because what we put forth is what we get back, oftentimes. And this light, the white lightning that this person is visualizing, is telling us that the awakening is coming. Good things are happening, and the fact that it's tied to basically good living, because this person has been putting forth those things that we all need to do with regarding to being non-judgmental and having mercy to others. And so this is how Cayce takes visions of color and ties it into physical actions, which is another reason why a lot of folks do their dream journaling, because that's pretty interesting in and of itself. Give color this body might meditate upon beneficially for self-healing. Now this is where you're going to start seeing some variations here. The white light of the Christ, if the body in itself would find help. It isn't the color, it isn't the vibration. It is rather the awareness of entering into the spirit of truth, the power of health, the power of love. Do that. And what Cayce is alluding to here is that it's not what you surround yourself with or any of those things, but rather it is the awareness of the Christ consciousness in our thought processes, in our patterns, in our minds. This is where the deeper unlayering will come from, where the deeper revelations will come from, where the grander healing will come from, is all from the Christ consciousness. And we could use the color white of ourselves, but it's not just the color that's making it, it is what we're doing with that color with respect to our mental faculties. Now, very similar question for another person altogether. Give a color this body might meditate upon beneficially for self-healing, for healing of others. Answer, deep purple. Exactly. Tune the guitars, hit the riff. Deep purple. Very powerful for healing not only self, but for others. The person asked, previous to that, asked the same question. He said, white. And it comes down to perhaps where is this person at in their development that they may better understand. And you have two different things and very similar questions and two entirely different answers. So this is where we learn that we are all unique individuals, and God knows where we are on the path and what we need and what would be beneficial to us. And that was the whole key of the Cayce readings, because it was for this individual for this lifetime that they can best use to develop themselves spiritually. Now, clothing. It's here where we start to get into a little bit of differences, because again, we have several unique peeps running around here, even in this room. Now, this reading was given to a little girl who was 2 days old. Okay? She was a 2-day-old. She just been born. In case she said, hence, the colors that will influence the developing years for the entity will be blue and yellow, or shades and tones of these particular colors, with the opal and pearl being those minerals that will attract and influence the entity. For there will be particularly those periods for the entity when stones or jewelry will be of particular interest to the entity. In those periods, when 15 to 18 months have passed, will this be seen in the activities of the entity? So where does this come from? Where does this innate drawing for this child come from with respect to blue and yellow and opals and pearls? And how does all this come forward? Well, a lot of it is going to tie into where the child came from, where the soul of the child has come from. Because Cayce tells us that we get our learning, the schoolhouse is actually all of the other planets that are out there in our solar system. This is the laboratory where we take the learnings that we've learned at the other planets and we come down here to learn to apply that to see how well we can overcome the earthly conditions. And as we saw earlier, a lot of different colors are tied to a lot of different planets. So perhaps this young soul at this point was visiting certain areas that could, in fact, had an influence on where and how she was going to grow. What are the best colors for me to wear? Answer: blue. And those tones or shades that go towards the deeper or royal purple and the modes that are in between. Not decided figures or stripes are well for body. So this person needs the blues, needs to wear the blues, the darker purples. It will be a benefit to this individual. For 963, Cayce found that the entity responds to coral red and the arbutus flowers should be about the entity. I had no clue what an arbutus flower was, so I went to the internet. Now I know. This is an arbutus flower. Notice the color of it, conditioned with what he was saying, responds to the coral red. So there's shades of that in here. Okay. It's interesting now, not only is color coming into play, but also things from the vegetable kingdom, the different flowers that are all coming into play. And throughout all of this, we are seeing the interconnectivity of all things on here. There are no things that are just, trivial here. Everything has its place. Everything happens for a reason. Everything is connected, though we in our infinite wisdom may not know it and know the reasons why at the moment, but we can rest assured that they somehow are. Here, Cayce is tying the color red, a vibratory pattern, to another flower that will help this person. The entity should have more of the colors of blue about the body, and those characters that represent the Egyptian cross, which, as seen, is more or less in the form of the lazy or the Maltese, except open and crosswise. Something like this is what he was saying, is what he was suggesting for this individual. Now, a lot of these things oftentimes come into what a soul has for a seal, and that was a different study altogether, and certain people were found to have their soul's seal based on certain designs and whatnot. And this is what this leads into here for this individual regarding the Egyptian cross. What is the meaning of my aura, blue to purple? Again, this is another one from 275. As the color or tone indicates, the blue in purity and the purple towards spirituality. So this is somebody who was now really getting into it, and I want to, she's starting to look at the blues and the purples, seeing it in her aura. So Cayce was able to see this person's aura and gave what he was seeing for her, and she was curious what it meant. And it is more with having, pure of intention and more along the spiritual progress lines. And it's very interesting is that when we were doing the horoscope a couple years ago, we were able to see a variety of colors. We all have a variety of colors in here, and they're all intertwined and mixed in, and they'll show up at different parts of our body. Okay, so this person here had a lot of blue to purple. Again, same person. What are the three major colors as manifested in the personality, the ego, and the monad? The monad is the ultimate indivisible unit, or God. Answer. Blue should be close to the body, white and gold. So now what we just learned about this person was that they were pure and had some spirituality going. Well, what do these colors come in here? Blue, again, repeated, should be close. White and gold. Two very, very powerful colors for the same person. And white is, again, the color of the Christ consciousness. So this person here was starting to try to generate, the best things that they can do, but having it is one thing, knowing what to do with it's an entirely different thing. And it all comes down to the only three things in life that we can control, which are thoughts, words, and deeds, because that's what makes it. We saw earlier how somebody who was not judgmental and who did show mercy. Those are things that this person had to control. They had to have a thought, and perhaps they said or did not say certain things, and then they took action. This is starting to come in along the same lines here, where we can actually use those colors to our own personal benefit. What colored light for my purification be of help? What type of light and where is it obtained? As has been indicated, as ye seek, the door is opened. For as he hath given, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If ye will open, I will come and abide with thee. No, there was not anything made that was not made that did not pass through him. So again, what are we being told? It is the representation of the Christ consciousness that is the first and foremost thing for this person to focus on in order to have the purification that will be of help. And that is a very important lesson for all of us, because if we will defer in a lot of ways to Christ and the consciousness, incorporate the Christ consciousness into our earthly beings, then things do in fact get easier. And again, he's telling him it's not the things of this earth, but of a hierarchy that needs to be focused on. It's not colored lights or anything. It's the mind is the builder. That is the key throughout the theme for all of these things. We now get into colors and vibration a little bit. What are my best colors, or does it really make any difference? Now this was from 28838. The person who is identified as 288 is Gladys Davis Turner. She was Cayce's personal secretary / stenographer and the brain trust behind all these codings here. She was also identified as Cayce's soulmate. Okay, even though he was married to Gertrude, she was hanging around, and that had to be a very trying time because there was the attraction there. But it's very important that we look at what goes on and how this starts to tie into the very next one. What are my best colors, or does it really make any difference? Each body, each activity, each soul entity vibrates better to this, that, or the other color. As with this, certain colors of green and blue are those to which the body vibrates the better. Follow-on question. Lighter shades? Answer. Lighter shades. Why is that important? We find right here, when we get into Morton Blumenthal's readings, number 149. Morton, as a way of background for y'all, had probably the most readings of anybody that Cayce worked with. In fact, he was his primary financier, So he was able to get the readings as he needed. He was also very active in the dream world. And a lot of the readings that I've seen that came from Morton Blumenthal has to do with dream interpretation. And this is one that, as you will soon see, ties right back in to the answer given to Gladys. Question. The three shades again. Dark, lighter, lightest gray shading. They are the three different consciousnesses you are writing about, said the voice. Answer. For these are correct, as given, for the dense presenting or representing the physical consciousness, the shaded that of the subconscious, the lighter that of the superconscious. See? All vibration, see, produces color. The change in the vibration producing the various shades of light gray, or darker gray, lighter, lighter still. So the lighter the color, the higher the consciousness. The darker, the more entrenched in materialism that we do in fact find ourselves to be. And when Gladys was asking about the lighter shades, this is why, because it has some effect on our three consciousness, our physical minds, our subconscious minds, and our superconscious minds. And the closer that we can align ourselves with the superconscious, the better we are going to be, because that is what Jesus did. Okay? And this is how we're starting to see the different colors and the shades thereof start to integrate into levels of consciousness. I found this to be thoroughly amazing because I never thought of it in those terms. But once again, as Cayce has proven to me time and time again, everything is hiding in plain sight. Okay? And when I'll eventually see it. But this is where I thought to be very, very interesting, especially when put up against what Gladys was just asking, specifically the lighter shades, the lighter shades. Very interesting. 252 was an active B. The mental aptitudes and attitudes of the body should be in those tendencies towards the creative forces through the imaginations of the body, whether in the field of the arts as applied to colors or music. For these are only a tone or a vibration, higher one from the other. These should be the fields of activity for the body. Based on this person and how they were wired, Cayce was suggesting music and art. It would be very beneficial to this person's development. And the reason it would be beneficial is not because of the color or anything, but rather because it would then put them into a state of mind where their influences and productivity would be along the more positive lines for their each personal activity. Again, to what colors and musical notes do I vibrate? Cayce answers, lavender and gold. To these does the entity vibrate. As to the music or notes, the harsher yet the idealistic or the outdoor notes make for the greater influence in the experience. So when Cayce was talking about is using that which is around us to propel ourselves down the right path. And in here, lavender and gold was an impetus, as was the harsher notes. And it would cause a reaction internally, mentally, that this individual would then pursue the better choices. And again, this is one of those things that I never thought of. You know, the music or whatever that you're listening to can, in fact, make a difference to us. Cayce did specifically say that with respect to pregnancy, that the music that the mother would listen to would be absorbed by the child, and it would help in the development of the child in its marital and spiritual selves. Again, 252 continuing, any color, stone, odor, musical note, or other symbol that would be helpful to the entity? The oriental perfume or odors. These colors are those indicated in the center of the plaque or seal, as in the center of Uranus. As to stones, the bloodstone, to be sure, is that which will bring more harmony as to vibrations. But in all, it is the mental in self that must bring harmony, whether the entity applies itself in music or in art. The mind is the builder. If we want harmony, Cayce is suggesting use art, use music to help you, but you've got to frame it in the right mind. You've got to be thoughtful. You've got to be more in tune with thinking the right things and taking the right intentions. Okay? And as you can see, this person was quite persistent about specific colors and all of the things of the senses. And when Cayce was done, Cayce pointed out, it's all between the ears, man. It's all upstairs between the ears. How are you going to deal with these things? How are you going to frame them upstairs? And then what are you going to do with them? He gave them all the tools in the toolbox. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how all of our thoughts are framed, to what we use in order to use the gifts that we have been given. Certain characters of stones and colors are well to have about the entity. Especially plaids, mauves, and certain colors of shades of purple are well, for they bring those vibrations that become in accordance with what may be said to be both the mental and physical aura of the body, which is in the purple, or the developments with the experience of the entity. And as these bring the vibrations that are not clashing, or activities that are not of the nature of detrimental influences or forces in the experience. What Cayce's telling us here is that the colors with which we adorn ourselves do in fact have an influence on us in some ways. And as our developments unfold, as we continue to learn and to grow, our tastes will change. Has anybody other than me found different colors throughout their years were more prevalent in certain periods of life for them? I certainly have. And why is that? Well, we'll just say, well, the fashion changed, or we'll put it into some material reason. But the point of the matter is, it's actually our developments that are being altered. And when that happens, then we're going to naturally migrate to the colors that bring forth the vibrations that will aid and benefit us. What would be a good symbol in the form of colors of our ideal? These, we find, are many in the various phases of expression. Those of purple and gold present the highest of that as attained in color vibration. So again, Cayce tells us, pick something. There's a multitude of them out there. What works for you? You're going to see that we have various phrases. We do evolve. Our bodies basically regenerate themselves every 7 years. What goes on upstairs? We have different influences. We have different life circumstances. We have a lot of things that go on into us that propel change. And as change happens, then we are understanding that, what is it going to be that's going to help us? And for this individual, the colors of both, purple and gold present the highest that is attained in color vibration. But that's not the only source of vibration. There's other vibratory forces out there. And Cayce was very, very good at answering people's questions the way they asked them. Because if you're seeing here, outside of the few references to where it becomes about a mental aspect of it, he was not telling people, how or what they need to do with it. But he was just simply answering their question. Purple and gold for you. Blue for you. And it comes down to each individual, what they're going through, what they're trying to achieve, what their purpose is, whether they know their purpose or not, and where they're at in their development. 4, it is not strange that music, color, vibration are all part of the planets, just as the planets are a part and a pattern of the whole universe. Hence, to that attunement which it had merited, which it had meted in itself, was the entity drawn for the experience. Now, what Cayce's talking about here is that each of the planets have a certain aspect of lessons for us. A lot of the lessons that we have to do with our 5 senses. And there's certain planes of learning, so to speak, that are the different planets out there that attribute themselves to our souls learning these things. Okay? And when we start to look at our solar system and we back out away from it, the further we get away from it, what we're going to see that it's quite universal in structure, because it's just part and parcel of the entire portion. As above, so below goes the old saying. That which we see in our solar system is very similar to what we see in our internal atomic structures within our bodies. They're all basically mirror images of each other. And it's very fabulous, just to sit there and watch and think and see how science has taken it down, all the way down, to the most minute part of our being, and blown it straight out through the universe, and they actually do match. It's just a mirror image, one of the other. It's pretty amazing. This was another one. This is a 5-day-old girl now getting a reading. In Uranus will make, as will be seen, those periods in the entity's development when there will be moods, temper will be expressed and manifest in its activities. Well, that these visions, also those tendencies for visions of seeming exaggeration by the entity in such periods, be not curbed, rather made note of, studied with the entity as its unfoldment in mental developments shows in its activities. Colors, to be sure, will affect the body often. Hence those of modes and violet would be well to have more often about the body, as well as those shades of blue that will make for a more even development in the entity's activity. My mother wished to hell she had that reading. I can tell you that. Because now what we're starting to see here is what this person already, by coming out of Uranus, there tends to be, some developments that come out of there. A lot of the Atlanteans, Cayce tells us, have their origins, they all popped in from Uranus. And what do we see? We see moodiness, we see temperaments that are going on. We see also exaggerated mental activities. But Cayce said, just let it go. And then as the entity ages, then start to sit down and talk with them and start to see how it works in their unfoldments. Okay, make notes of these things. And it will be as a helpmeet to the child if the parent would do this. And it's very, very powerful. And again, because of these tendencies that Cayce put forth, he's also saying what colors need to be in and around the child so as to perhaps mitigate some of those expressions that are innate within the being. It's pretty fabulous when you really think about all what's going on here. And this is, we are here 3 rocks from the sun. And this is our solar system. Each of these have certain things for us to learn from. Okay? A lot of different things. Jupiter is attached to the pituitary, the highest force. Okay? The sun, all of these things come out. And it's all part of here. Why are they there? Is it just a freak of nature that these planets happen to be there? Or is there a more reasonable part for them being there? Is it an accident? I don't think so. And it just comes down to man's level of understanding at the time, and understanding that these are just not, objects in the sky, but rather they have actually a deeper meaning that will help the soul go forward. And remember, it tells us in the Bible that God created us in his image, which is spirit. So the spirit happens to have a body right now. The body doesn't have a soul necessarily. And when we go here, there's different tendencies that we learn for all of these things. This is where our soul learns its lessons, and then we come back here to the laboratory and see how well we did. Because it's here where we're getting the instruction of what we need to do for the better development. But what we do with it when we come back here is a different thing, because now we have to deal with the earthly influences. And it is this here that must be overcome so as to make all of the learning that we've learned here meaningful, so that we can go to the next step of the journey. And I'm going to wrap this up with this one right here, because this is a pretty good one. For this entity has so often been the music and the flower lady, until it becomes second nature to work in or with those either in arranging bouquets or corsages, or even the very foolish way of sending to those who have passed on. They need flowers when they are here, not when they are in God's other room. In this manner, though, and in this work, may the entity not only minister to others, but it may do so in such a way and manner as for the beauty and the color, even the voice and tone of flowers, to come to mean so much to people whom the entity would and could interest in such. Music and flowers, then, should be the entity's work through this experience. These have not altogether been, and yet do work with such. For flowers will love the entity as the entity loves flowers. Very few would ever find it in themselves to wither while about or on this body. That is so cool. Anybody do any gardening? Anybody ever chat with their plants, talk to them? My mother did. She was big on that. She did. We had one of those little Charlie Brown Christmas trees back in the 70s. Little bitty ones. And she took it out in the backyard and planted it. 2 years ago, I went back to where I grew up and drove by the house. And that thing's probably about 35 foot tall right now. And she just talked it. And I mean, we're talking in high desert. I mean, it was just a beautiful, she talked to and she believed it, and she would actually get them to respond. And so when you see people who are like this, you know what? They can have an effect on us too. They are very, very meaningful to us, The entity will love flowers. They'll never wither while they're about you. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. The music and the flower lady. And talking to them and returning to them, because what you put forth, what's going to happen? You're going to get it back. It's going to get it back. And it doesn't mean that it has to get in back in the ways that you fully expect it to, but maybe on the more subliminal levels that you'll be able to discern something, perhaps from a flower or a plant, that it is in fact communicating with you. And it's a wonderful thing, because it shows us all the interconnectivity that we have with each other, with our surroundings. There's not, nothing is here by accident. Okay? And that, I know you're sad, but that's about it on Edgar Cayce on colors. Any questions on anything about colors?